You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to JW World News. Here it is, October 23rd, 2021, and we are counting down the last days of the Watchtower. Stay with us. Wow, there you have it. Hello, everyone. My name's Rick Farron, and thank you for coming in tonight to JW World News. We've been doing it for 16 years. We've never missed a Saturday night. And as I always say, we are here because you are here. There's people that really rely on getting information about the Watchtower. And we love to give you the information, so we do it every Saturday night and every other Sunday here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, anyways, as I say, my name's Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. That's right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And we were one of the first up here to really start getting a lot of apostates. Really. Now, don't you worry. I say this all the time to you, but don't you worry if you don't have any apostates where you are, maybe down south in the Midwest, maybe over in Europe or wherever you might be. Don't you worry, there's going to be a lot of apostates showing up soon because there's so many people leaving the Watchtower. Well, friends, I have to tell you, just for those might be listening and new here tonight, I've been involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses for a lot of years, in fact, close to 50 years of my life. And I was disfellowshipped back in 2005 for the worst possible thing that you could be disfellowshipped for in the Watchtower. And that happened to be apostasy. But I am glad that Satan kicked me out of his organization. But anyways, I mean, I really want to share so many things with you folks. There's never enough time to do it, but I want to try to tonight give you some insight into the Watchtower, give you some really good understanding of what's going on behind the curtains, and many people are not seeing it. But we're going to be talking tonight about the governing body. We're going to be talking about how they are getting ready, I believe, to leave. I really do. I think they're getting ready to get out of Dodge, grab the money and run, leave some of their helpers behind. But we're going to discuss that story tonight. And we got so many things we want to discuss with you guys tonight. So by all means, stay with us. And once again, thank you for coming in on Facebook. Thank you for coming in on YouTube. Thank you for coming in on our video suite and our radio telephone network. We thank you. Now, another thing I want to say is people love it when you speak up. Oh, they love it when people call in from all over the world and they voice their opinions and their thoughts and their concerns on how they feel about the Watchtower. So if you have been touched by the tentacles and you have some issues, you have some bones to pick with the Watchtower, well, tonight would be a good time to do it. So by all means, don't be bashful. And if you're on YouTube, just look in the description box, as well as in Facebook. Look in the description box, and that'll give you the telephone numbers and how you can come in and call us up and talk to us right here live tonight. This is live. You know, there's no editing here. We don't remove comments. We are live, unadulterated truth is what you're getting. A lot of people don't go live like this, but we do. You never know who's going to call in. So you're in real time. So if you're suffering from some issues surrounding the Watchtower, tonight's a good time to call in. Well, I'm sure that you guys have been seeing some of the same news I've been seeing. But I wanted to talk. Something that got my attention this week was a woman that got some serious panic attacks in Belgium, and she got some serious panic attacks. As a matter of fact, she was even in shock after she received mysterious handwritten letters at her door and asking her to think about the Bible. Now, I never thought of this. This brings up a different understanding of these Jehovah's Witnesses letting, letter writing and using, handwritten letters, and they're slipping them under people's doors. So this woman, her name was Laura Morrigan. Well, she was sent into panic mode. She went into a wave of paranoia. It was all over the paper after finding a letter from a Jehovah's Witness under her door. Now, what do you think of that? Would that send you into panic mode? I never thought about it, but some people, they don't like, they feel like they're being stalked. They feel like somebody's, trying to personally attack them somehow. But this woman really, I mean, she wrote to the newspaper. So I thought it was quite fascinating. I got a few handwritten notes here from Jehovah's Witnesses. Maybe you guys listening in out there, maybe you got handwritten notes too. I mean, I didn't freak out, but they were handwritten, and many of them by children. But, they're just, she thought that they were targeting her. And she really got very nervous over the whole thing. In fact, I'm going to put a picture of the letter up. I'm going to read you the letter. I'm going to read you the letter here. I want you to see the letter. And I'm going to read you this letter. Let me just get it up here so we can get it. Come on. There we go. All right. I'm going to read you this letter. Let me just put this on full screen so you guys can see the letter, see how it's written. I'm going to duplicate it here. All right. Let's do that. So anyways, there's the letter. I don't know if you can see it or not. But anyways, it says, here's the letter that she got. Hello. My name now, it's really, I'm having a hard time even reading this letter, to be honest with you, because it's just so, I don't know why a person would send a letter like this. How would you expect a person to read it? But I think it was a young person. But this is the letter that she got. Hello, my name is Phil, and we all face challenges raising a family, working, I can't even read what they're saying, but working, and we all have future worries. I am asking you, where can we find practical advice for daily living? It says, often we turn to the family or to a good friend. I'm inviting people to think about another source. The Bible claims all scripture is inspired by God. The Bible has practical advice on how to deal with stress, how we can enjoy work in our family and be happy. And then it goes on to say many, I can't read that word, many dismiss, I guess it's many dismiss the Bible as a book full of myths and legends, but it has helped, I guess, lots of people with practical advice on how we can be sure of a hope. So, I mean, that's the letter. I don't know what you guys think of it, but I wanted to read that letter to you. Now, the woman was having panic attacks over this letter. I couldn't believe it. I'm not seeing why she would, but hey, look, some people feel very, very funny about getting personal letters or getting people knocking on the door. So it was a disturbing discovery that led Laura to question why the religious group would target her directly. So somehow she went to the newspaper. She told them that she was paranoid. Who are these people? She found out it was Jehovah's Witnesses. And a long story short, once she realized it was Jehovah's Witnesses, and once she realized that it wasn't anything just targeting her, they were writing to a number of people in the neighborhood. So she, even though she initially was paranoid and very distressed, she did calm down. But the article goes on and on and on. And Laura, she discovered that she was part of a wider mailing campaign. Now, let me tell you something. When the witnesses get into a mailing campaign, it's big time. Remember when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, how they wanted us to write letters to Malawi and Russia and Rwanda? And I'm talking millions of letters. And a few years ago, when Russia was putting a ban on the witnesses, of course, the message went out to all Jehovah's Witnesses to write a letter to the Russian government telling them they should not ban the witnesses. Friends, there were so many letters going into the Russian post offices, it created a major problem for them. We're talking millions of letters that all the witnesses wrote. So when they do a letter writing campaign, I mean, it really gets out there, and it's on their own dime. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on mailing, and the Russian government was upset that so many letters were being written. It was really something else, and it didn't seem to help. The witnesses are still banned in Russia, but these letter writing campaigns—that's what the witnesses are doing now, because they can't go out in service. They're not going door to door because of COVID. So they're all instructed to write letters, and they are just proliferating the neighborhoods with an abundance of Watchtower letters. But some people are getting freaked out, like this woman, Laura, because she thought she was being targeted. Really, in fact, everything today, it's all email, right? Everyone writes through email. So if you get a letter, especially one that was slipped under your door, and it's handwritten, oh my goodness, you might be a little frightened too. So, we have to take that in consideration. So Jehovah's Witnesses, they have taken the liberty to, even though they don't go door to door, they're still irritating people by writing letters. My goodness. Did you write a letter when you were Jehovah's Witness? I did. I wrote to Malawi and I believe Rwanda, and they would ask us all to do it. So we'd do it. It didn't have to be a long letter, but they'd say, just write to the government of Rwanda, and they gave us addresses. And we'd write a letter, and off it went. But millions of other people did the same thing. So I wanted to bring that up today. And I know it's not the biggest story this week. We got bigger stories we'll talk about. We got bigger fish to fry. But I saw Jehovah's Witnesses in the news with that. I says, something? I want to talk about that. I really, really do. Well, anyways, you're on JW World News. Now, that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want you talking about, but we're talking about it here tonight. I got a really good story here I'm going to bring up in just a little bit. I really believe the governing body is saying goodbye. I really am seeing that they are looking for a way out of Dodge. And we'll get a little bit into that. That's going to be our top story tonight. But I wanted to bring up some other thoughts first before we get into that story, because we're going to spend some time on it. And I just wanted to bring some other thoughts up here as well. There's another thing that I found really, really, really good on the internet this week, and it's concerning former Jehovah's Witnesses in the Netherlands fighting Jehovah's Witnesses. They are trying to start a class action lawsuit against the shunning policies. And they're claiming that the shunning is discrimination at its highest level, and it's also a social death sentence. So that's in the Netherlands. And I wanted to talk about that tonight because so many times on our program here, people say, well, why can't the governments do something about shunning? Why can't the governments come down on people being shunned? Well, it's a tough thing. It really, really is. You can't stop someone from not wanting to talk to you. You really can't. In fact, I went down. I told you this story before, but I went down. I'm sorry. I think there's someone that wants to come in here. Did you want to come in, Ken? Evidently not. Okay, it's going to mute himself. Okay, keep it muted until we want to come on, because I can see things going on in the background here. But anyways, I just wanted to bring up a story that going back a number of years ago, about 10 years ago, I went down to visit a congressman here in Boston, Massachusetts, and I told him about the Watchtower policy on shunning. and I brought some Watchtower articles with me, and he photocopied them. One in particular was from the November 15th, 1951 Watchtower, saying that it was 5152 Watchtower, I believe. And what they said is the witnesses would stone a person if the laws of the land allowed that. So I showed that to Congressman Lynch. He made a photocopy of it. I also shared with him what was going on in the Watchtower with covering up of pedophilia and child molestation. He entertained what I had to say, and what he wanted me to do is get some people that I knew that would be willing to write a summary, and he was inviting us to come down for a congressional hearing in Washington, and we were going to be interviewed, and we were going to be asked questions about the Watchtower. Now, I thought that was fantastic, so I did get some people to write some summaries, and evidently the government was going to foot our bill to take us down there and bring us in before a congressional hearing. But somebody put the kibosh to it. But I do remember even Lynch was saying to me that even his own children, from what I recall, he told me that they were shunning him. He says, so you can't really make a law. You can't make a law that prohibits people from talking to anyone. If they don't want to talk, they don't have to. But here's the thought. He did say this to me. He says, you know, if you can prove there's a conspiracy, if there's a number of people behind a conspiracy to socially distance someone, to really just conspire and beat up on them, then you may have a case. So I told him we do have a case. That's what the Watchtower does, but they never did get to hear our case. But now this is what's happening in the Netherlands. They're really, the government's looking into it. Now, they're not just looking into the fact that, well, my sister or my brother won't talk to me. They're looking into the fact that they're underlying the word here, a social death sentence. And that's what it is. When a person is shunned in the Watchtower organization, they get a social death sentence. How many times have you heard it said that when you're disfellowshipped and they shun you, you are spiritually dead? Nobody has anything to do with you. If they see you coming down the street, they run the opposite way. That's a fact. And there is a conspiracy to do that. So that's what the government in the Netherlands right now is looking into. Now, a few months ago, we also discussed it in Belgium. There was a suit that went against the Watchtower, and they lost. It's in appeal court right now. And in November, it's going to be settled one way or the other. But the witnesses in Belgium were accused of shunning. And it's not just, as I said earlier, my sister, my brother won't talk to me. When you create such harm, when you just declare the person is dead, it can have such devastating psychological effects on a person. So consequently, Belgium is now waiting for the appeal from the Watchtower. They lost the first suit, and they actually were fined. Watchtower appealed it, and now they're going to come back in November and settle it. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But I found that very fascinating, because what it is a number of former Jehovah's Witnesses in the Netherlands that are fighting the Jehovah's Witnesses. This policy is really discriminatory, according to the Netherlands government. And, now this is the second country that now is investigating this. It might be a while before America does it, but I'm really seeing that governments are beginning to really turn a close eye to what the witnesses are teaching and what their policies are. The government is not happy. Now, when you declare someone socially dead, just think about that. None of your friends, none of your relatives are going to speak with you. You're dead. And according to the ex-witnesses, and they told the newspaper, they told the government, when one leaves the organization or he is expelled, he is declared this socially dead. Ex-members should be avoided like the plague, and family and friends should no longer seek contact. I mean, how heinous and evil is that? Well, what is the most, what really is one of the most, let's go with this, comforting feelings in life is to have your family, relatives, and friends love you. Does it make you feel comfortable? Doesn't it? Your mother, your father, your sister. Now, nobody likes to be in a big heated discussion with your family members or your close friends, but the Watchtower knows that's a good tool. That's an effective tool that works for them to keep you away from people who have left, because they know that people that have left, they have the truth on the Watchtower. So, I'm glad. I'm glad that the ex-witnesses in the Netherlands are now coming forward and saying, hey, enough is enough. Let's see what happens. While you're on JW World News, you're on with us. Go ahead, speak up.
Yes, Mr. Farron.
Yes, Ken.
Yeah, Ken from Michigan here.
Yes.
Okay, I've been glad you brought the subject up tonight, and I've been listening with interest, and including some people are calling up and saying, well, we shouldn't, we got to be careful when we ask the government to do something like that and so forth. But let me explain the freedom of religion and this shunning business right now. Okay, now, you individually have got freedom of choice, freedom of religion, and freedom of communication, etc. If you want to talk to somebody, that's your right. But if you don't want to talk to him, and you say, okay, no, I don't want to talk to you, okay, this is it, because maybe this person did harm to him or whatnot and so forth. And I've got cases like that. I think we all got them, or most of us do anyway, and all that. But we have to remember, we're not trying to violate the Watchtower's civil rights or human rights. They are violating our civil rights and our human rights. And we got to, now listen to this. The Watchtower Society gets a person and they put them on the spot. They put them on the kind of spot and so forth and say, this person has done something wrong to the organization. Now, we order you and you and you, we order the membership not to talk to him, to shun him and so forth. Okay, they've got no authority to do that. That is an individual choice, you have to remember. Your choice. The organization has got no business to do that. And besides, when they do that, they're causing harm. Some people have committed suicide, and some people have lost their jobs, and some people have ended up homeless or whatever it is because of the Watchtower Society's policies. That is not protected by the Constitution. The Constitution says freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of choice and all that. That's not freedom of choice. So they've got no business taking their tentacles and putting them over in our household. They've got no business coming over to a private household and all that and say, this is what our rules are, and this is what you're going to have to go by, even if you are a member. I mean, their authority stops at the church gate and so forth. The only time that they have authority to go beyond that is if you are claiming to be a representative of a certain religion and you're giving them a bad name and so forth, then they can get involved outside of the church. But other than that, they can't do that. So rest assured, the Six Screens Network is not interested in violating anybody's constitutional rights. As a matter of fact, we want our constitutional rights back. And the Watchtower Society is the one that is the aggressor, not us.
Well, that's well said, Ken. Let me just kind of recap what you're saying here, because I'm on the same train with you. Now, if I said here tonight, I told the audience, look, we got this guy, Ken. He calls in from Michigan. I don't want you to have anything to do with him. He's not a good person. Stay away from Ken. Don't listen to what he has to say. that would be wrong on my part. That is a conspiracy right there to destroy and assassinate your character. But now, on the other hand, if we have a listener listening to the Six Screens Network, and they say, "Well, I don't really care for Ken. I'm not gonna comment." That's their personal choice. But for someone who's running a network, or especially running a so-called Christian religion, to tell the congregation to avoid, to shun, to tell them that they're spiritually dead, that's wrong. That's discrimination.
That is wrong.
Yep.
They've got no business doing that. You can go up to somebody and you can ask them, you can say that this is what this person has done to me and so forth, and I would prefer that you don't have anything to do with them, but you can't order them. You can't order them to do that. That is wrong, because we've got freedom of religion and so forth, and evidently some of those other countries have got it too, because they're doing an investigation on them, and that's what we need. Now, as far as that goes, now I know that you heard from Congressman Lynch there that no such law can be passed. Well, we don't need to pass any of those laws. We've got them already. All we got to do is enforce them. There is no legislation needed. Our constitutional rights have been violated. We're entitled, and we want them back. That's all there's to it. But the problem is, on a constitutional rights violation, it's what they call a civil matter, and you have to go handle it yourself, using your own money, hiring your own lawyers and everything like that. 99.9% of the people can't afford it.
Well,
so that is wrong.
Well,
the government is wrong on that part. We need to have enforcement of those laws.
Well, thank you.
It comes under libel and slander, and if there was a class action suit, then it could fall under the libel and slander proviso with a class action suit.
Okay, very good. Yeah, it could. It does come under civil matters, and you can claim a number of things. Like, for example, some people have called in before and said that they've got civil rights laws in some states that you can't discriminate on religion, race, height, weight, or anything like that, like Michigan has. And some people have tried to have succeeded in getting something done on that. And yeah, libel and slander is another good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I never thought of that.
Thank you, Ken. That was all. Also, the other thing is mortgage fraud. I've told this group before that the Bible study sister tried to get our property, and that comes under mortgage fraud.
And also, they put Jehovah's Witnesses under threat that if they do not follow their direction to shun certain individuals, that they themselves will be shunned. So they're under threat. And that's not right either.
No, it isn't. That is wrong, and that is a violation of the Constitution, constitutional right to freedom of speech, because you make the choice on who you talk to and who you don't, not the Watchtower Society or not anybody else. Like I said earlier, they can suggest not to have anything to do with this person, but they can't force you under duress and coercion to do that.
Well, you know, Ken, you got me really thinking here. You really opened up my mind here, because when I was down there 10 years ago talking to Congressman Lynch, and he said, we have to prove that there's a conspiracy. If you can prove that, and that's basically what you're talking about here. If his kids didn't want to talk to him, that's their choice. But for someone to come into the picture and say, hey, you kids of Congressman Lynch, don't talk to him. You're not going to talk to any government officials. That's a conspiracy. So I got you on that, and now I'm understanding this fully. But like you say, it would cost money. You'd have to file a civil suit, and we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, I'm really looking to see what happens in Belgium. The appeal that the Watchtower came against, they appealed their shunning policies. It's going to come back up again in November. I'm really interested to see how that court case comes forward. And then I'm also interested to see what's going to happen here in the Netherlands. But maybe they're starting to get some traction here. Wouldn't that be good? Yeah. So anyways, you're on JW World News. If you got something to say, now's the time to say it. What do you think? Do you think that, yes, go ahead. We'll go with Randy, then we'll go with Thomas. Go ahead, Randy.
I just wanted to briefly say, I know what Watchtower is going to say for their defense because I've already had them say that to me. Will basically say that's that person's individual choice. You can't stop them from shunning you.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what they'd say, Randy. You're absolutely right.
Hey,
Yeah.
Rick.
Yeah, let's go with Thomas. Then we'll bring the other sister on here, whoever that was. Yeah. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah. Thomas,
Thomas, shut your speakerphone off. We're getting some echoing.
Oh. Let's see here. Yeah. Anyway, from what I can see, it seems like to me that they've just lied to the attorneys and everything, and then they got all this money. They could fight it, tie it up. But the courts are not really giving us a fair shot because of these powerful attorneys. But if we could really get some good cases going and a lot of, getting prepared real well with a good attorney, we might be able to make some headway. And I'm hoping with this situation in Belgium and Netherlands, this might help us to, over here in this area of the world. I hope so, because they've been getting away with murder with this shunning policy. They're breaking up a lot of families. It's just heartbreaking what they're doing. They're forcing people to shun their own relatives and families, and it's illegal. It's corrupt. It's wrong. It's unchristian. I mean, I can't believe the stuff they get away with. The mortgage fraud and how they played on these old folks and taking all their property away from them, using mind control and brainwashing. They're just getting away with murder practically. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah, well, you're right, Thomas. We would just get some echoing. I know whose phone it is. So go ahead. Come on in next and talk to us.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, hold on one second. We've got somebody's got their speakerphone on. I'm going to give you the area.
Hey, this is Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
J Boom Blue. I called.
Yeah, could you come off your speakerphone?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's better. Yep.
Yeah, hey, in order to pin the Watchtower, yeah. In order to pin the Watchtower down on this and make it a conspiracy, you would have to find out what the Elders book says they do to people who are caught refusing to shun people. So if you can show an attorney that they are taking away people's freedom of speech by disfellowshipping somebody for refusing to shun a disfellowship person, that shows that they're taking away your freedom of speech. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, that's a good point. That's a darn good point. So we haven't heard from. Are you new coming in here?
Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead then. And
yeah.
Good. Thank you. Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Yes, Steve. When they're taking people's properties, it's really not mortgage fraud because you're not defrauding a mortgage company. The category it falls under is domestic abuse, which if you talk to a local police station, if you know where this is happening, they should have a domestic abuse, domestic violence officer or team. And the thing to do would be to go into the station and ask for that officer's name or that group of officers that handle that. Most cities, most stations should participate in that. But when you're defrauding someone like that, especially in
Might it also be considered elder abuse? Abuse of the elderly, elder abuse, if that person happens to be elderly? I'm sorry.
Will you let me finish? All right. It falls under the category of abuse. Okay? So that is a crime, and they do prosecute it. So that's where you need to go. That's what you need to do. It's not mortgage fraud. You don't go to the bank, because there is no fraud. There's deception, but it is under the category of domestic violence and domestic abuse of elderly people. So that's what you got. That's how you have to handle that.
Yeah. Now the sister came up with a good thought there, Steve. Elderly abuse.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what it is. If she let me finish, she would have heard that.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Yeah.
It's all in the same category. Domestic violence, domestic abuse. It does not have to be a marriage mate. It does not have to be a boyfriend or a girlfriend. What they're doing is abuse. They are abusing an elderly person. It does not have to be physical. What they're doing is they're taking advantage of them financially. That is abuse, and that is legal. So when this is occurring, if you have knowledge of it, again, talk to the local police departments. You can go in there, and they do have officers. They do have usually an officer or a department that specializes in that. So that's the route to go. Go ahead if you have a question or a statement.
Would they not have to prove that it was under coercion, that person would have signed their property over to them?
It's first, you report it. You let the police do the investigation. You don't have the power or the authority to examine the situation the way they do as the police. So you report it. You give them all of the information you know. You tell them as much as you can, and then you don't have to prove anything. You make them aware of the situation at the best you can. That's the most you can do. And with the information that you provide them, then they will take it from there. They will start an investigation. Next question.
Well, I think that's good advice, Steve. I really, really do. And I really think that eventually it's going to end for the Watchtower with this shunning. I really do. I think eventually they're going to, get in trouble for it.
Mr. Fair.
Oh, hold on, Ken.
Steve, go ahead.
Good, Steve. Yep.
I have 2 points of view on this. I mean, you know what? For the most part, I was a witness for a long, long, long time. Okay, I know all these brothers. I know all these people. They're not real friends. And you know what? For any of them who don't want to talk to me, don't want to associate with me, don't want to treat me as a true friend, I'm not interested in forcing them to. There's a whole world out there with quality people to make friends with in many different quality ways. And that's the route that I've chosen to go. And I'm not going to sit at home and pout because Brother Hypocrite is not going to talk to me. And yes, I do understand there's the other side of it where they do slander you. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, the elders were doing that to me anyways. I was always in good standing in the congregation. I was never disfellowshipped. I was never publicly or privately reproved for anything. I was never in any trouble. But the elders would go and tell people I was bad association. And it would always get back to me because I did have quality friends in the organization. And I would always ask the publishers or my friends, did they specifically say what the problem was, why I was bad association? Every answer was always no. And the elders never, ever once came up to me and said, we'd like to talk to you because we feel we have an issue with you. They never did that. And I mean, after leaving the organization, after doing a lot of research on cults and mind control, the bottom line is I was never a yes man. I was always willing to help in the congregation, to do things, but I was never going to suck up to any elder. And that's from day one as a teenager when I came in. So that's the problem that I know that existed in my personal set of circumstances. So, but any of these people, I don't care if they want to talk to me. As a matter of fact, I had an elder come up to me and want to shake my hand and talk to me. I refused to shake his hand, and I refused to talk to him because of the way I got defrauded in the congregation. So they did nothing to the person that defrauded me. They were aware that his previous activities were defrauding people, and they continued to give him privileges. He was not technically appointed a servant. He had the keys to the hall. He would take servant groups out. He had parts on the school and service meeting. He took the lead in many, many ways in the congregation. But they let him defraud people. They never did anything about it. When he defrauded me, I went to the elders, and they did nothing about it. I asked that particular elder, I said, would you help me as an elder, a friend, as a brother? And he said, you're on your own. It's your problem, and it's your fault.
Well,
Steve, may I ask you a question?
Please, yes.
Do you have family in the organization?
I do not, but originally when I came into the organization, I did. And my family left the organization as I was coming in. And because they got this fellowship, because of what the society said, then yes, I shunned them. So I lost my family sticking up for their cult rules and their cult teachings. So,
but you do not currently have any family in the organization, is what I'm asking.
No, I do not. No. But so, and even the PMO elders, if you're an elder, you're going to do what you have to do. The reason is you're a PMO is because you're trying to save your own self. And so that PMO elder will, to some degree, handle things a little differently, but when push comes to shove, he's a PMO, and he's going to put himself and his family first. So I suggest...
And you stated you're a PMO for what reason? I'm sorry, I'm having some difficulty hearing you because of the volume.
I am not.
No, I didn't state that, but you stated something about if you're a PMO something, but you're speaking, it sounds like your volume is a little low, so it's difficult for me to hear everything that you're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Let me try this. Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm just saying PMO elders, I said, I gave up my family as a 13 or 14-year-old because they decided to leave the organization. My family brought me in, and then they left because they said to me, the witnesses do not have the truth. Well, I still believed at that time that they had the truth. So they got this fellowship, and I no longer kept in association with them. So technically, as a 13-year-old, I was willing to give up my family at 13 years old. And so you're going to tell me some adult man, some adult person is afraid to give up his family? Well, I lost mine sticking up for this organization. So if somebody wants to protect themselves, they're half in, half out. But if they're an elder and they claim to be a PMO, they're still a threat to the individual because they will still put the society's teachings before they put themselves, and that's if they're an elder, because they have to do that. And that's what they're trying to protect, is their position and their status and their situation with their family. So,
hey, we've got someone else, Steve. We got someone else who wants to come in too, Steve. I think I asked you a question.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
Yep.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yep.
Rick, this is Chad over in California.
Yes, Chad. Did you want to say something about what Steve's saying?
No, what I wanted to say is, as I've said before a couple of times, us older ones that get shunned, it's one thing for us to get shunned and lose our families, but the bigger thing is, to me, is the children and the grandchildren that are getting punished because we've left, or their dad or their mother has left, and the children get punished from the rest of the family and the congregation. And I think that's the shame of it all, is that it bleeds over into more than just one person. That's my comment about shunning, is it's so destructive to a whole family. That's pretty much what I wanted to say about shunning.
Well, no, that's what you're saying there. That's truthful. I mean, that it does. It destroys the whole family, really. And, it's not just, all of us ex-witnesses that are being shunned, we feel the adverse effects of it. But, the person even shunning us, they've got to be feeling some emotional stress too. They really do. They probably want to
Yeah.
talk to us. And, they say, geez, it's going to hurt them. I know my mother, I brought it up a couple of weeks ago. My mother died. She went to her deathbed without talking to me. And, when a person is dying and checking out of this system, you probably lay there and you say, I know I'm dying, but gee, I wish I would have made amends with this person. I hate to leave the earth knowing that I treated this person badly. I mean, that's what probably runs through people's minds. I mean, it can hurt them too emotionally.
Yeah, I have one brother. My other family members won't talk to me at all, but I do have one brother that will, if I call him, he will not call me. But I know he's under terrible stress because I and him were very close. And he does not want to shun me, but he also feels like he has to. And he's under stress because he feels like I put him under stress. But, when you're trying to wake somebody up, I still call him once in a while. He doesn't answer all the time, but sometimes he will. I know that he's under stress because of this policy.
There you go. That's very well. I'm sure he is. He wants to talk to his brother. He wants to, but the Watchtower is saying, no, don't do that.
I have a Jehovah's Witness associate whose husband committed adultery against her. And the circuit overseer contacted her and told her to divorce her. That her husband was going to be disfellowshipped. But he also gave her instructions to divorce her husband and threatened her and told her that if she did not, that she too would be disfellowshipped. She divorced her husband. She had a nervous breakdown. And that was over 30 years ago, and to this day, she is still not the person she was before. She's still being affected by that emotionally.
My goodness, that's a terrible story, but that's true. That's what happens. It's a terrible thing, and the Watchtower should have some feeling on that, but they don't. They don't. It's terrible. My goodness. Okay, you're on JW World News. Anything you want to speak up?
Yeah, hello, Mr.
Yeah,
Farron.
go ahead, Ken. Yep.
Yeah, we got cut off a while back, and I didn't catch everything, but I've been listening ever since I got back in. Okay, now I just want to call to your attention that some laws, like the state of Washington, I think some other states have got them too, but have laws against alienating people from the family, like the organization, like Watchtower, and that can't alienate you from your family. But again, those are civil laws, and you have to use your own resources to enforce them. There's no enforcement, and we should get. And this is the problem. We need to find some way to enforce those laws and so forth. And I'm very sorry to hear about that last testimony and all of them like that. But the Watchtower Society, again, it's just nothing but overreaching with unlawful authority and so forth. They had no business to tell this person to divorce somebody or whatnot and so forth. That was the situation was the lady should have made a choice on her own. Maybe she would have wanted to get together and talk it over with her husband. Maybe she would have overlooked it. Maybe she would have forgave him and everything like that. She had a choice on her own. And the vast majority of Christian churches would teach that, the individual choice and the first, try to resolve the matter. But yeah, that was very wrong for the Watchtower Society to do that the way they did.
Well, Ken, that's not an isolated case. I'm telling you, they will in fact destroy a marriage in a heartbeat, and all they need to destroy a marriage is the mate is unwilling and is not receptive to wanting to be a Jehovah's Witness and is constantly cranking the witness about things and exposing the witness to all of these apostate sites. They will tell the person to divorce, That's terrible, but they do it. They break up so many families, and it's sad. But that's why they're not Christian. That's why they're a cult, because that's what cults do. That's what cults do. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's a violation of our civil rights and our constitutional rights, and so we need to do everything we can to get them back.
Well, we're going to work at it. California, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
What Ken just brought out and what the sister just brought out, this is just another very clear indication that Watchtower is indeed a cult. And it's a cult all about control and loyalty to them. Because if they really cared about their people, let's think about what they told that poor sister. Your husband is going to be disfellowshipped, and if you don't divorce him, you're going to be disfellowshipped too. What a terrible position to put a wife or a husband in when you love your spouse. A marriage is sacred before God. Now, what I'm thinking of is how many sisters are married to a man or a brother that is horrible to them, that calls her names, disrespects her, makes fun of her, puts her down, talks badly about her to his friends, maybe hits her, slaps her, pushes her, threatens her. She can't get divorced. She'll go to the elders and they'll tell her to be a better wife. Well, stop irritating your husband. Pray more. Be submissive. Make sure you're giving him his due. And the other thing is, what if the sister is married to a child molester or a rapist? Is she allowed to get divorced from him, but yet let one be disloyal to Watchtower? See, it's all about Watchtower and loyalty to them. As long as the child molester or the wife beater or the pedophile is loyal to the Watchtower, well, that's a different story. That all comes down to why they're a cult. Another glaring example. It's all about loyalty to the cult. Thank you, Ray.
Well, you're absolutely right, Anne-Marie. And then the thing is, too, you know, why are there so many ex-witnesses coming out and speaking up against the Watchtower? The answer is very simple. As a matter of fact, you know, of all the different aberrant, strange cults and religious sects that do strange things, do you know the one that gets the most search on Google? You guessed it, Jehovah's Witnesses. Why is that? It's because the Jehovah's Witnesses have hurt so many people, destroyed families, children that have been kicked out of their house as teenagers, marriages that have been disrupted and destroyed, so many things that can be said against the Watchtower. And that's why we do this program every Saturday night. And that's why there's so many activists out there that also are speaking up. It's so heinous. It's so evil. There's no way that we can just, okay, fine, forget about it. We can't forget about it. These guys are destructive and dangerous. Yes. All right. So anyways, well, thank you. Thank you guys for all speaking up. My goodness. We love to have you speak up and talk. So, all right, we'll move to the next story. Anyone else want to say something about shunning? You got a couple of minutes if you want to. If not, don't worry about it. All right.
Rick, one more thing, if I may.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Anne-Marie. Yep.
I'll thank you about the shunning. The brother brought up a little while ago about how the children suffer so badly, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and he's so right, because these children who are born into this cult, and maybe their aunties or their uncles or their grandparents were disfellowshipped, these poor little ones come into the world, born into this cult or raised in this cult, and are denied their God-given right to know their auntie or their uncle or their grandparents. And it's a shame, a shame, a shame. I myself, I think of my granddaughter and my Jehovah's Witness son who doesn't speak to me, or my daughter-in-law who doesn't speak to me. They get along very well with my granddaughter. What if they had somehow managed to convince my granddaughter to join the Watchtower? Then I would never know my great-grandchildren that I get to see anytime I want, and they love me. If it was about, if Watchtower had anything to say about it, my granddaughter would not speak to me, even though I help raise her. My grandson-in-law would not speak to me, and my great-grandchildren would not be allowed to be anywhere in my presence. This is a wicked organization. I thank you for everything you do to bring it out. Thank you, Rick.
That is a human tragedy. And there's so many people that have come on this program, Anne-Marie, and they don't even know who the grandchildren are. They've never met them. It's disgusting. And how an organization who claims to be Christian can be happy with that. Breaking families up, something that God put together, the Watchtower pulls apart. Disgusting. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. I'm going to just say one thing. The 617-449, you've got to shut your speakerphone off. You got to shut your speakerphone off, okay? Okay. You got to shut your speakerphone off. Again, you're echoing. All right, let me mute you. All right. So, okay, we got more people want to speak up. So go ahead. You're on with us. Yep.
Hey, Rick, Jay from North Carolina.
Yes, Jay.
Hey, yeah, listening to this, and I've been puzzling.
Hold on 1 second. I want to just say this. We got a caller here that's got the speakerphone on. Area code 161-449. Shut it off, please, or I'm going to kick you out of the program. I'm going to kick you.
Got their laptop on and their phone.
That's what's going on. Yep.
Yeah, they got that on.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay.
Been listening to this. Boy, this is a real mind bender. What can be done? And I heard the analysis. Yeah, that sounds absolutely logical and reasonable under the law. Wouldn't it be nice if every organization that had a tax-free status would lose their tax-free status if they published anything that regulated family relationships?
Well, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But sadly, there's so many religious groups that do that. Watchtower, we know it because we were in it. But there's so many other groups that once someone is expelled or blacklisted, then everyone is expected to show the same kind of break a relationship, shunning, whatever, break a relationship. And there's a few, they're not as big or well known, but the Amish do it, and there's other high control groups. So that would, and they suffer too. The Amish suffer for those that may still be consider themselves Christian, but they're just not in that group. They wear different clothes. They lose all their families. And what do you do except that best we can do is teach people healthy thinking, be ready to help those that are lost and confused. I would say teach what the Bible really teaches. And but yeah, that's a tough one. But I hope someone comes up with something and shuts these cults down. All right, that was it, Rick. Thanks.
Well, that's a good comment. Thank you. Now, listen, I want you to hang in for a little bit if you can, because the next story you're going to like. It's about the governing body. The governing body is starting to say goodbye to people. So hang in there.
All right.
All right. Anyways, I just want to make a comment. That person calling in that area code, listen, I don't like to have to kick people off the call here, but evidently you had your laptop going. You had your speakerphone on as well. It was interfering. So if you want to call back in, you know who you were. If you want to call back in, shut your laptop sound off at least. Just shut it off and shut the speakerphone off, and you'll be able to come in and talk, and we can hear you. Other than that, it was very, very disruptive. All right, let's move on to the next story. This is the story. Boy, I'll tell you, I've been working on this for a while, but this is the story that really got my attention. Is the governing body saying goodbye? Yeah, I believe they are. And I went back on the trail. I picked up some crumbs and I started to examine them. And it looks like the governing body is going to be leaving Dodge very shortly. This all started really back in 1992. We got to go all the way back there. But I've got Watchtower articles here to show us that this has been a progression. It's so what they have to do is they got to do things slowly, like boiling that frog. But the governing body, I believe right now, it's only my opinion. You might not agree with me, but I think they're getting ready to say goodbye. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why. So hang in here with me. But, back in 1992, they began training or assigning replacements, governing body helpers. They call them the Nephilim. And of course, what the Nephilim were, not Nephilim, the giants, no, not the Nephilim, but we're talking here the Nephilim with an N. And what these were is in Israel, when they were building the temple, they had people that came and helped them that were not Israelites. So they helped them. They carried the lumber, they mixed up the mortar, and they carried the bricks and the blocks and everything to build the temple. But they were not Israelites. They were called the Nephilim. And I'm going to tell you something. Before we go even further, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to share this with you. I was invited down to the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses for a potential position on the governing body. Yes, I was. Now, you might say, Rick, come on. You were? Yeah, I was. I don't talk about it a lot, but I got a picture right here. I'm going to show you a picture. That is, let me put it up close so you can see it. Oh, that is a picture there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's a picture of me with Brother Loesch. Brother Loesch invited me and my wife to come down to Brooklyn, Bethel at the time, and have an interview. And we went down and talked with him. And it was for a position on the governing body. And from what I understand, there were 3 other brothers that were of the anointed class that were being interviewed as well. At the time when I first met Loesch down there, and I'm going to give you more information. I'm not going to go into depth tonight. I'm not going to do a YouTube video about it. But let me just say, when I the first thing that came out of Loesch's mouth, I got to know Loesch. We talked on the telephone before I went down there. He knew I was anointed. He was very concerned with what I had to say. He invited my wife and I to go down there in 2001. So we went down and we spent a good part of a day with Brother Loesch. And he asked all kinds of questions, showed us all around. But the point would be, what Brother Loesch told me was the biggest issue. The biggest issue back in 2001 was there were so many Jehovah's Witnesses that were calling the Watchtower. They were so upset that they had all of these helpers coming in that were not anointed brothers. And, a lot of the witnesses said, this is not the way it's supposed to be. The anointed are the channel that dispenses meat in due season. But at the time, that's what they were trying to do, is bring some new anointed blood in that were in good standing. And I was in good standing. And but I'm glad I didn't accept the job. I told Brother Loesch that there was some issues that I was having some trouble with, and that probably put the kibosh on it. And I'm glad it did, because I don't know how I would handle that. Imagine being on the governing body today. Well, that's another story. I'll go into depth someday about it. But here's what I want to talk about. What this Nephilim did is they had to bring in, because they're trying to really diminish the anointed ones. They are trying to just make them fade away, go away, get out of here. I mean, it's just going against their whole principle. So now what the governing body is doing, and as a matter of fact, they had the annual meeting just a couple of weeks ago, right? The first Saturday in October. And now what the governing body is saying is they will now all die and go to heaven before Armageddon. Friends, I have been looking at this very closely, This appears to be their ticket out of the problems that they're all encountering. They're all getting older, and they now are saying, and I'm going to play a clip from Samuel Hurd, governing body member, and you're going to hear him. It's a small little clip here, but I want you to hear what he has to say. But they are now telling, in a series of Watchtower articles, I'll bring this up in just a few minutes here, telling the Jehovah's Witness rank and file that the governing body is not going to be here soon, so kind of get used to it. Now listen to this. I'm going to bring you in here. I want you to hear Brother Hurd. This is a governing body member. I want you to listen to Brother Hurd. Let me just get him up here so you can see him. Let me see if I can't get it to be full screen, which I can. Here we go.
So when the anointed are called to heaven, one of the first assignments is to fight.
This is the annual meeting 2021. Samuel Hurd, governing body member. They're telling you that they're going to heaven. He says, so the first assignment they're going to have when they go to heaven is they're going to fight. And, the audience gets a little laugh out of that. They're going to fight. Oh, my goodness, are these guys fighters or what? But what they're doing here is they're telling you before they tell you. They're getting out of Dodge. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to be raptured. Now, we'll get into that too. The witnesses never use the word rapture, but this is what they're suggesting. Listen in.
Now, that's interesting. Some of us were fighters before we became true Christians. Some even served in various branches of the military. Didn't they, Brother Morris?
Well, he's saying that some even governing body members were serving in branches of the military before they became witnesses. And then he looked over at Brother Morris, Anthony Morris, the other governing body member. But what I find fascinating here is he is just saying right outright that, when they go to heaven, he's going to be a fighter, and more or less suggesting it's coming soon. Listen to him.
Some were Green Berets, not Brother Morris. But then we became Christians. We learned the way of peace, and we let go of such warfare. Figuratively speaking, we pulled the pin on our last hand grenade and tossed it into the air, killing no one or nothing. Just a loud ka-boom. But in heaven, we will serve along with Christ and his holy angels, waging the final war against God's enemies. So if you've ever thought that you might feel left in the lurch after the anointed are taken to heaven, think of this. On earth, none of us Christians are allowed to fight. Many of us anointed ones are too old to fight, even if we were allowed to. But in heaven, we will be mighty, immoral spirit creatures, fighting alongside our warrior king, Jesus Christ. Believe me, we can and will do you significant more good in heaven than we ever could as imperfect humans here on this earth.
I can't stand it anymore, really. I really, really can't. But let's get back here. Let's get back, and I'll give you my feelings on this. So Brother Hurd, he's letting the audience know that he's going to be going to heaven soon, and he's going to be a fighter, and he's going to be fighting right alongside with Jesus, the great executor, and killing people here on earth. And he's saying for the rest of the witnesses, don't worry now when all of the anointed, now that the newest teaching from the Watchtower is all of the anointed ones, they're going to be up in heaven. They're going to be up in heaven when Armageddon supposedly comes. But he's saying, don't you worry about it. Okay, you're going to be well taken care of here. So that's where the Nephilim comes in that we were talking about. They are training non-anointed men to take charge when they're gone. So this is all coming very, very soon. Now, also, I got information that the January 2022, that's coming up in January, just a few months from now, they're going to bring more thoughts up about them being raptured. Now, they're not going to use the word rapture. They're not, because that's a Christian term. They're going to stay away from that. But they are suggesting through some of the publications, even as we speak, that they're going to be taken to heaven. They're going to be taken to heaven. We're now getting to the time that Jesus needs them. And what an excellent alibi. What an excellent way to kind of step out of the limelight. These guys have got so many lawsuits against them, to be able to step out of the limelight and just kind of disappear. Oh, I guess they were taken to heaven, but they'll probably be down in the Cayman Islands somewhere, where the money can be wired to them with their offshore accounts. I'm just thinking, friends, this is big. It really is big. I really think they're getting ready to pull a fast one. They want to get out. They've got too many problems. Now, also, did you want to speak up? Someone, go ahead. You run with us.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's me. Hey, this is Joey. Did you notice what he said? That we would do more in heaven than any perfect human being on earth. They're putting themselves above Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did notice that. That's despicable. Despicable. Thank you, Joey. Anne-Marie, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I have 3 comments. One, in Revelation, when it shows Jesus coming back and he's on the horse and has his sword, and one of his names is the Word of God, and he has all the other horsemen with him, and we know there's Michael, the archangel, and all the other myriads of angels. But for some reason, Rick, it seems that according to God's organization, that Jesus needs the governing body like Anthony Morris more than the angels that he already has with him to accomplish his will. He can't fight without the governing body that protects child molesters. Oh, no. And the second thing is, when you were mentioning that they're all going to go up in heaven and making all these promises like it's a real good thing, it reminds me of that crazy UFO cult where all those guys got together and got new shoes and laid down on their bunks and died because they ate poison or drank poison. I mean, they were just ludicrous. And the third thing is, isn't it interesting that Watchtower always seems to go to the Old Testament to find fodder to support their crazy doctrine, whatever that doctrine may be at any given time. Thank you, Rick. And by the way, Rick, I do think you're right on the money.
Well, thank you. No, the thing is here, but I'm glad. In fact, you must be reading my notes, because that was my next thought. I was thinking of Reverend Applewhite. Remember him with the Hale-Bopp comet and how that was going to...
That's what it was.
Yeah, Reverend Applewhite. That got me thinking of that when I was going through this story. Now, you know, cults end very foolishly. In fact, very tragically in many cases. And I just hope... Now, I hope they don't pull a Jonestown. I'm sorry. I hope they don't pull a Jonestown. No, I'm not going to don't take this to the bank and cash it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's getting very, very foolish out there what these guys are talking about. I don't think it would happen. I really, really don't. But I know there's so many loyal witnesses. They are now set up. The Jehovah's Witness loyal witnesses are set up to follow these nutty guys on whatever they would say. So when it comes to the end, they're getting direction that doesn't make sense from a human standpoint, but you have to have faith that Jehovah and the governing body are behind it. I'm gonna play another talk from that. Oh my goodness, I tell you what, this talk is over the top. Now, this is where I start getting nervous. This is where I start getting very concerned for my witness friends and relatives that are still in this cult. I want you to listen to this. This is the talk of the century right here. I want you to listen closely, and you're going to hear some strange stuff here. Listen in. Let's see if we
continue to recognize Jehovah's channel for receiving spiritual food. The November 15th, 2013 issue of the Watchtower mentioned key points for elders in particular to keep in mind as we prepare to face the attack of that coalition of nations that the Bible calls Gog of Magog. Now I'm going to quote the article. This is what it stated. This is quote, "At that time, life-saving direction that we received from Jehovah's organization may not appear practical from a human standpoint. All of us must be ready to obey any instructions we may receive, whether these appear sound from a strategic or human standpoint or not. Now is the time for any who may be putting their trust in secular education, material things, or human institutions to adjust their thinking.
Is that scary? Does that scare you? My goodness. When's the last time? Go ahead.
His cadence is terrifying, Rick.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pixie. What'd you say?
Cadence. His tone and tempo, his cadence is terrifying.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? It is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well,
and also the audience for the previous one, they all take a sip. But if someone in the local congregation takes a sip, or someone was from the old Rutherford time, they tried to talk them out of it. And my father, God bless him, he was born in 1910. He led a congregation and helped with another brother before the elder came in, the elder idea. And he turned to the other brother and he says, I can't lie about my baptism. So there were many people that had a heavenly calling before that, but they were good, kind, real Christian people. And if they said something, they backed it up with the Bible, and they were very Christ-like. Now we've got a two-tiered system where everybody in that audience takes a sip, but nobody in some little country town does.
Well, Pixie, right on. I mean, I know you're talking about the sip of Kool-Aid. Listen to the rest of what he has to say here.
I'm talking about the sip of the chalice, sir, from our Savior.
Well, right. They're not doing that. Do you think they're sipping from that cup?
I think they try to dissuade any true Christian in a small congregation, but they've got a system in New York, upstate, where they all take the sip.
Well, I'm with you.
They think they're above us, and they think that they have a better calling than we do, and perhaps they have a more biblical calling. But they've made a two-tiered system, and that's not in the Bible. In the Greek, Jesus said all, but I won't get into that today.
Yeah, but what you got me thinking here, see, as I've been following this right along, they in the last few years have said that they're the really only ones that are anointed. The rest just kind of think they're anointed.
That's not in the book, sir.
No, it's not in the book. It's not in the book at all. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Pixie, for coming in. We've got some others that want to speak up. Go ahead. You're on with us. California, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rick. It's Constance.
Oh, hey, Constance.
I was going to say, hi, dear, listening to that November 15, 2013, I tell you, Rick, it makes the hair on the back of my head rise up, because it reminds me so much of, Jim Jones with the People Temple. When Congressman Ryan was able to get a few people out, his plan was to come back with more planes to get more people out. And Jim Jones went into total panic mode. And he already had the strychnine inside the Kool-Aid. And so we thought, oh my God, now we're going to be exposed. There's going to be more jets here taking more people out. I can't let the U.S. and the world know what really is going on here in Guyana. So he went into panic mode, Rick. And he said, okay, now everyone's got to drink this Kool-Aid. And for anyone who tried to run and hide in the jungle because they were in the jungle, well, they were shot to death. So what I'm hearing here, Rick, I am not a type of person that is trying to scare people. I'm very much of a realist. I'm the type of person, just put all your cards on the table, let me know what I have to deal with, and I can deal with that. But I cannot deal with, the curveball coming around the corner. I didn't see it coming. And I hear Watchtower, the governing body members, they know something, honey, that they're not sharing with the rank and file. They're not. And they're trying to find an exit plan so that it can sound so biblical. Rick, they're not going to heaven, okay? They're not going to heaven because they cover up all the pedophiles because they have the two-witness rule. That's a bunch of nonsense. But the point is, they know something's coming down the pike, and they're trying to find an exit plan and trying to make it sound so biblical.
Okay, so I hope people who are in, I hope they get out. I hope they get out right now before it's too late. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Constance. You know what's really, well, we got some others too before we depart from this. Okay, go ahead. We've got Montreal, Canada. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Lord Rick.
Hi, Jeff.
Yes, yeah, I like the point that you brought out that the governing body will soon be being dismissed or resigned from the position because they have caused so many damages, so many promises that they will take care of and make sure that the people that have gone through many difficulties in life, in family lives, will be cared of, will be looked after. But the promises that they keep on breaking and hiding and lying to everybody, pretending that it's gone and that this Jehovah will clean it up and make it all better. But we see that the fire is not put out yet. The fire is still continuing to burn and cause many disastrous results that has caused depression and suicide and all that. They're not real people anointed. If they were anointed by the Spirit, they will act upon what God has given to the Spirit and not go about their own direction. But in the same, but we see that they're putting aside the Spirit and they're using their own intelligence to see that they're the ones who are in control and not what God has in store. Thank you.
Oh, Jeff, well, that's an excellent comment, Jeff. Really, really is. And I like the way that you speak right to the point. You get it. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's exactly right. They're not anointed. They have no idea what it is being a brother of Christ, but yet they're occult leaders. Jeff, you're okay with my book. Don't you be a stranger now. You come back and visit us again, okay? Pretty soon. I love to. Oh, we always love to hear from you. Thank you. All right, that's Jeff. All right, I'm just thinking. Okay, we got someone else. Go ahead. Looks like we got.
Mr. Farron?
Well, go with. I
Yeah,
think.
this other caller can go.
Go ahead.
Hey, Rick.
Oh, there you are.
Hey,
It's Dick. It's Dick. Yes.
Yep. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You know how you always say, Rick, they tell you before they tell you, and they tell you while they're telling you. You know how that goes. They've been telling the rank and files for years that if the Watchtower gets on shaky grounds, it'll be because of the apostates. The apostates will do it. But don't listen to the apostates. Well, they should be listening to the apostates because we tell the truth. And if we weren't telling the truth, the Watchtower would come down on us with 1,000 lawyers. So it is the truth. In the 15 years or so that I've been listening to Six Screens, I've never heard a Watchtower call up and make any kind of sense at all or argue any points of theology with us. Maybe you can tell me, Rick, because I don't remember ever having somebody, and maybe an elder from any place, ever call up and tell us that we're wrong and why we are wrong. I just don't recall ever hearing that.
We never have. We never had that. Of course, we do have Watchtower operatives that have come on to try to disrupt the program. We've had a number of those. But, we never had an actual witness come on and say, well, Rick, let's debate this. Let's talk about this. It never happened, Dick. You're right.
And it probably never will.
Yeah, it probably never will, Dick. Yeah. All right. Let's go with Ken, then we'll go with
the other call.
Okay, we'll go with the sister. Go ahead, sister.
Rick?
Yes.
I've been listening in, and I've had this exact same thought for maybe about a year or two. And I told my son, I said, this is, I can't believe, that could do this. But yet, at the same time, it's how do almost all cults end in some kind of horrific mess. And anyways, I just think that there's a great possibility that they will pretend to be raptured. And at some point they will tell these people to do some stuff that's going to get them in bad trouble.
Well, that's a good comment, sister. Thank you very much. I like that Southern accent. I always enjoy listening to you. Now, don't you be a stranger. Thank you for coming on and being with us. Thank you. All right. Well, there you go. Now, the rapture.
Hi.
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh. I didn't know if this is going to work. I'm calling from the UK and I was trying out a new service that would be free.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say that the GB, they are such cowards. They are so scared. I mean, you think of Loesch, that he denied being his status within Watchtower, that didn't take instructions. You think how they've just left their flock in Russia to go to prison. They won't go over and visit them and be with them in prison. They're so scared. And if you are a real spiritual person, you wouldn't be scared of death at all. You wouldn't be scared of imprisonment because you know it's just temporary. It's just part of it all. They have no love towards their brethren, and they have no courage for their brethren.
Well, there you go. You brought a different dimension in here tonight. That's exactly right. What should they be scared of? But they're getting ready to leave. They're getting ready to head out of Dodge. I'm telling you, sister. Boy, it's so nice to hear you, British.
A lot of us have thought of that. That yeah, they're just going to be like this pile of their clothes, and they'll be gone. But I'm saying there should be a nice plot twist because they're not the puppeteers. They have people above them who are puppeteers. So it would be quite ironic, not that I wish ill on people in that way, but it'd be quite ironic if they think they're going off to some private island, and in fact, they're just disposed of because they're not needed anymore. There's no reason for Watchtower to pay for them to live on a private island somewhere in a haven. There's no reason. They're not needed. They're not important. They're really not. They don't have charisma. They don't have brains. They're just puppets. That's my thought.
Well, I like the way you talk, sister. I really, really do. And you made my night tonight by coming in here and calling all the way from the UK. So thank you for doing that. Now, don't you be a stranger. I always say that. Yeah.
Mr. Farron?
Yes, Ken. Go ahead, Ken. Well, I don't know what happened to Ken. Ken kind of disappeared on us. But anyways, what they're saying is, now I'm going to read you some Watchtower articles here as well. But what the governing body is more or less saying, and then they are saying it. It's not more or less saying it. They're saying now they got the governing body helpers all in place. Now you also have them saying that very shortly they're going to be all going to heaven. God's going to take them to heaven because that's what they have to do. They have to get ready to come and fight with Jesus, the great executioner. So they are saying they're going to be raptured, but they're not using the word rapture. This is something that really my head spins on this. They will not use the word rapture. But what does basically Christendom say when Jesus, God? Hold on, Ken. Hold on. Well, what basically? What basically did the Bible say that Jesus, God's going to come and take these ones to heaven? He's going to bring them there with him. That Christendom uses the term rapture. Now, it might not be a biblical term. I understand that. But they will not use the term rapture. And they won't use it because Christendom uses it. But, what else are you going to call it? But they're saying that Jesus is going to bring the governing body, those anointed ones, and they're the only ones that really are truly anointed right now. Now, I'm going to tell you, I started seeing this just a couple of years ago, and I never really expressed my thoughts on this. I figured I needed the dust to settle, and I needed more time to figure this out. But now I'm starting to pick crumbs up on the trail, and I'm seeing some things that are coming to light here that are making sense. They started to prep people for this rapture. The governing body will no longer be with us on earth. They started prepping people back in the Watchtower, October 2019. And they were saying that the earth was going to, the anointed wouldn't be with us here anymore because they were going to go to heaven, but they would be capable ones that would be able to serve in place of the anointed, which would be the Nephilim, which we talked about. And then also in 2015, a Watchtower article talked about the rapture, which stated that the anointed are being gathered at once by Christ and we're going to be taken up into heaven. So they're using these, priming you, telling you before they tell you, as Dick Borgie was just saying earlier. So what it is the governing body. What I'm seeing now is a step-by-step pretext for them to skip town. Now, let me just tell you. Now, when you're talking about a pretext, this is exactly what the governing body is doing. This is a reason is given in justification of a course of action that is not the real reason. They are skipping town. They've been telling people they're going to be raptured to heaven, but this is not the real action. This is just a pretext. Okay, you're on with us. Who wants to say something? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, cumulatively speaking here, if we review, the Watchtower Society says that those people in New York are kings and priests, number one. And number two, they say they are part of the 144,000. And they're part of the anointed and so forth. And through the years, a number of people have been replaced, have been appointed and replaced. Some estimates are anywhere from 500,000 to 800,000 and there's only supposed to be 144,000. Now, I have not been able to find those statistics, but I'm going to keep on looking for them. Okay, but Christianity teaches in their doctrine that those 144,000 have been appointed from the tribes of Israel many years ago and so forth, and they're sealed. And they're there already and so forth. So the question is, how did the Watchtower Society of New York get up there and break that seal? And how did they throw those original 144,000 out and then replace them with their people? That's a good question. And Watchtower Society, now, if you're listening to this program, would you kind of call up here and kind of explain that to me? Because I'm interested in finding out what's going on here.
Well, good for you.
It's because they say it is.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of very clever people that it's because, quote, it's because I say it is. And that's what they've done. And most of them probably don't have the Bible knowledge that the ladies in the hats used to have, or people like my dad, born in 1910. They don't have that. But the real concern I have following Rick Farron's notion is if they all do get raptured up there in that auditorium, and they have one single powerful leader that's a Creflo Dollar or Jimmy Swaggart type that can really speak with some pizzazz, then they're in trouble, because then they've got a Jim Jones type.
Yeah, well, it's eventually going down the path of Jim Jones anyway, but maybe not in the exact shape or form, but it's going down that road anyway and so forth. And, well, their doctrine is a big lie anyway. We all know that, so. But I asked a question for Watchtower to call in and explain it to me, but they never have so far.
Well,
they never have called the program at all.
Well, we're waiting for that call, Ken, really. Okay, we got Toronto, Canada. Toronto, Canada, come on in.
Hey, Rick, how's it going? It's good to talk to you again.
Oh, always good to hear from you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've been doing my Pilates. I'm getting in shape.
Well, you sound like you're in shape. You sound like you're very energetic. What, you just come back from the gym or what?
I wish. No, not from the gym. What I just wanted to mention, I have kind of like a little bit of an interesting theory. of what may happen. Now, all of the, all of the growth that they're having, right, supposedly, and Kingdom Hall's closing down, it's kind of feels like eventually it'll just get to the point where we're having our meetings at home and the Kingdom Halls will no longer be in use. And then one day, they're gone. You know what I mean?
I do know what
it almost feels like that.
I know what you mean, and I'm on the same train. I'm going to use that expression because I feel the same thing. It's almost like they're getting ready to just leave everybody hanging. Toodaloo, see you later.
because with the documentaries that are going on, especially the Kingdom Hall crashes. I did see that one where they were at Warwick, and letting the officers know about these practices. You can only hide for so long the two-witness rule, which to use that rule to protect the image or the name of the organization as opposed to their own, like children, what am I trying to say? Children can sometimes begin to start holding on to thought, becoming sentient at the ages of 3 and 4. Those are the most important stages in a child's development. And, unfortunately, some of these young children, both male and female, have come to the hands of, the wrong elders. And, the sad thing is that if you're an elder or a circuit overseer, you've got this kind of almost immunity in a sense where, you would never be guessed to do that. People would say, oh, no, he would never do something like that. And for the victims, oftentimes that's very defeating for them because it's like, okay, well, if they're not going to, listen to me, who will? And eventually, somebody is going to take notice in a much bigger capacity, and they're going to get the ball rolling. And it's only a matter of time,
I'm with you. I like the way you sound. It's going to happen. It's going to happen soon, too. I know. Yeah. Thank you. Hold on 1 second. Let's bring the girl in from. We got a number on the phone here. Let's go with California. I think it's Constance.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to interrupt your brother. I thought he was finished. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, dear. I thought you were finished. I was just going to say if you are finished. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Same here. It came to me, Rick, I'm very analytical. I like to always try to figure out motives of people. I don't know, maybe I should have gone into law. I don't know. But I just wanted to say this. Wouldn't it be interesting, Rick? We know Erwin Zalkin and his team is suing the governing body members. Okay, that's a fact. And Erwin Zalkin has been after that database that Watchtower has of all of the pedophiles. Well, maybe Erwin Zalkin, maybe, I'm just speculating, maybe he got a hold of the database, Rick, and it's blowing the cover off of Watchtower because it's a hell of a lot more pedophiles than any of us ever thought. I've heard it's on an average 2 to 3 pedophiles per congregation. So, Watchtower does not want exposure to the pedophile paradise that they have. And if anyone doesn't believe me, do your research, okay? Because I am speaking the truth. And the thing is, Watchtower doesn't mind trying to make these deals on the side and keeping it quiet out of court, but having a gag order, which means shut up, don't say anything. Well, if Erwin Zalkin has the database, Rick,
And the governing body members know it. Maybe that's the reason why they're starting to scramble and go into this panic mode.
Well,
and they want to exit out of the country.
Thank you. It's more than a thought, because I think we're on the same way of thinking. I thought the same thing. All these lawsuits, and they know it's all coming down. They've got to get out of there. They've got to get out fast. And we're not part of this anymore. And Jesus took us to heaven, and we're nowhere to be found.
Right. Because they want to run, for Dodge, like, oh, let's get out of here and let's not be accountable, because there's so many lawsuits that are coming in that, Rick, I'm sure it's like a tsunami, okay?
Yeah.
And it's a thought, and I think that's where this might possibly be going, because Erwin Brown and his team is suing all of the governing body members on the issue of pedophilia, and he has been after that database for a long time. So thank you, Rick.
Well, what a great ending to the movie. We're out of here. Jesus took us. We're nowhere to be found. Okay, you're on with us. Go ahead. Who's next?
Okay, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Just
a
couple of quick thoughts.
Yeah.
Connie's right. I've said this for years on the 6 screens, that in my congregation, which is the Lowell Highlands, then this simply Lowell congregation, I knew of 4 pedophiles, and I studied with 1. So I think Connie's right. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 pedophiles in every single congregation. And I harken back a little bit to Nazi Germany with the Odessa files, when all the Nazis could see that the World War II was going to be lost to the Germans, and they all went to Argentina and Brazil and all those other places. And they probably told their family, we've been raptured to heaven. So, I'm sure that's what they're going to do. All of a sudden, there's going to be no governing body. Where are they? They've been raptured. And who's going to handle the weight of all these lawsuits? Well, who knows? Because it's not going to be the governing body, because they've been raptured.
Well,
they're probably in Argentina or something like that.
Patagonia?
Where?
Patagonia, Chile. Is there a congregation there?
Probably.
Well,
probably.
Well, it sounds far-fetched, but I mean, really, it's in their world, it's people would believe it. People would believe it. But, for us, it would be like really unbelievable. But a loyal witness, well, they all died. And, well, they didn't really, Jesus took them before they died because he needed them. He's getting ready to come to the earth and kill everybody. And he needs a governing body to help him,
I mean, just a follow-up thought. Yeah. You talk about they don't like to use the word rapture. Well, I think they used it in 1914. They told all the Bethelites that they were going to be raptured to heaven, and they were standing on the roof of Bethel waiting to be raptured up. Of course, it never happened. So maybe that's one of the reasons they're a little reluctant to use the word rapture.
Well, they did right. They did use it back then. You're absolutely right. And I think Connie is right, too. This is all having to do with lawsuits. They see all this coming downstream. This is a great exit strategy. Oh, we're out of here. And the witnesses would believe that. The sheep will believe anything. And when they're told that the governing body went to heaven, they will believe the great tribulation started. It'll even make them more loyal. They'll say, oh, Armageddon's right around the corner. Oh, my goodness, the governing body's gone. My goodness sakes, it's unbelievable.
Hey,
yes.
My goodness sakes, sell your house and give all the money to what's left of the Watchtower.
You got it. Oh, okay, you're on with us. Hi, Dan.
Yeah. Hey, Rick and Dan. Yeah, I was just thinking. I'm just speculating, but do you think the last Watchtower that they have will be like Stephen Lett and Anthony Morris and all them, like a Star Trek, where they're transporting or something? You think they'll be on the cover in spacesuits and transport out of here? I mean, my God. I want to say this on the serious side. What's taken this organization apart, Rick, is truth. And the truth has set us free. And what's taking them apart is their unwillingness to turn back to God. And I've always said, why don't they repent? Why don't they turn around? Why don't they stop doing this stupid thing? And see, Rick, they've run out of shows. You know, 74 was a big show. The Generation was a big show. The Overlapping. You just can't keep throwing these things at people and then talk about building a mass media center. So it is show over for them. But you know, there was a guy on a couple of weeks ago that said, how come there's so many people going against Watchtower? And I was meditating on that this week. I was thinking, man, it's like literally thousands and thousands and thousands of videos are being made every day. And people are protesting and people are online. And, you know, documentaries, like you said, Rick, are showing up. You know what it is? I figured out what it is. You know what it is? It is divine justice. And because they will not turn around, because they won't stop what they're doing, they're going to be taken apart piece by piece. And I forgot what I was going to say, what that was called. It'll come to my mind. But they're having their judgment. This organization is having their judgment without mercy. They won't even come clean on the pedophilias. The Catholics did. They said they were sorry. They had an apology. The witnesses will not do anything of the such. They will not repent in any way. So, Rick, I believe this is divine justice, no more mercy. They've had plenty time. These guys have been around a long time, and now they're intentionally misleading. I mean, they might have been way back then, but now there's no excuse. The record is there, everything is there, and everybody gets an opportunity to turn back to God. Everyone gets an opportunity to say, you know what? I've lived my life like this. I've done this. I drank. I did. Everybody gets an opportunity to do like the prodigal son, to come back home. These guys refuse to come back home. They're amoral. They're amoral, Rick. They don't have a consciousness. And just like we thought, you know, this thing that happened that Constance mentioned, you know, last week about this genocide that happened with Jim Jones. It seems surreal. It seems like, you know, how could it happen? But these people are already doing things against contrary to their nature. They're giving money. We were told they come around and collect money. Well, they're collecting money. They're already doing everything contrary to what they've said. The false prophecies. The people are still blindly following. And like I said, anything could happen with the spirit of darkness upon these leaders. And I just want to say one more thing. That's what we get for bowing our knee to men, to putting men above God, to saying these men are our mediators. These men are our governors. These men are the go-betweens between us and Christ or whatever. That's what the lesson we get, is that we can go straight to the Father, that we don't have to have men and mediums and channelers, people that channel Jesus for them. That's what they do. They say, we hear Jesus' voice, we're the faithful and discreet slave, and we everything Jesus said, we give to you. So they channel Christ. That's what they say. But that's what we get for having mediums and challenge. I shouldn't say that's what we get, but that's the lesson we should learn. But Rick, they're having divine judgments now without mercy, because they are operating mercilessly upon God's people. Everybody is God's people. And to continue the path that they're doing knowingly is an intention of operating right along with darkness at the highest levels. That's all I wanted to say, Rick.
Well, that's good. You did. I agree with everything you said, Dan. I really do. Thank you for checking in with us. Really appreciate it. Always good to hear from you. Rick. Always good to hear from you.
Good show.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. My goodness. So before we move on, we got a lot of people in the green zone.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
Yeah, go ahead. Make it quick, Ken. Yeah, make it quick.
Yeah, just a short comment right here. In the past, the Watchtower Society has made changes. They changed their names. They reinvented themselves. They re-identified themselves, and so forth. They've, made some changes in the past. They're going to probably do that again. It's just a matter of, it's a matter of, not a matter of if, but just when, and it's probably going to be before we know it. Like was brought out in the past, they want to get away from these lawsuits and so forth. So that's going to be an avenue for them to consider, and they're probably going to do it before we know it.
Well, I know that was going to tickle your ears with the lawsuits, Ken. I know you follow that stuff. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're welcome.
I believe we've got California once again. Is that you, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I've been hoping I could get a chance. Thank you so much. I'm looking at possibilities, not necessarily saying it's a probability, but given the record, as Ken brought out, Randy and Dick, and especially the sister from the UK, what if, one, to get rid of the lawsuits that are now going directly to each and every individual governing body by name, if they all just disappeared because they got raptured, then those lawsuits are null and void as far as individual charges. They can't charge the ones who take their place because they weren't responsible for what prompted the lawsuits, right?
Yeah. It all depends though if they can really stay invisible. In other words, if they're gonna use that as
that covers my other thing. What the lady brought out, I thought it was a very interesting surmising point. She said, "What if they just kill them all?" I mean, what if? Let's just look at this possibility. We have to be understanding that everything that once seemed crazy and impossible has, in the last few years, come true. So let's just look at the possibility. Is it possible? What if there's a little celebration? Let's just think of this scenario. The governing body, they have all of their little plans in place to escape, and they're talking about how nice it'll be to be free and to be able to finally live their life and kick back in their recliners and watch whatever they want. What if they have a little going away dinner? And guess what's in the wine? I mean, what if? It's a possibility because, as the sister brought out from the UK, they don't need them anymore. The governing body basically have been puppets. Yes, they have power. Yes, they're seen as the leaders. But in truth, they don't have all the power. They have somebody above them, as far as I am thinking in my mind. What if this deceiving, lying, trickery, money-hungry, scamming group gets something done back on them? What if? It's just a lot cheaper to get rid of them, isn't it?
Well, that's
gone because you can't. They're all gone. They're dead. What if? It's a possibility. But as far as somebody said, "Oh, they realize it's coming down," they've been realizing this for 20 years, at least. They saw it. They saw it when the internet hit in '95 with America Online, and everybody started finding out about all the stuff that they were hiding, and then they tried denying it, and then more and more people got curious. Then you had all the groups coming up that were witnesses showing the dirt, and then you found out that you could download copies of the shepherding book, their secret book that some of the Watchtower elders' wives didn't even know existed. So they already knew 20 years ago that, their goose was cooked and time was short. Thank you so much, Rick.
Well, there you go. And what? Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. Emery has a couple of interesting thoughts. My thinking was I'll probably give them $1 million, put them on a yacht, and give each one of the governing body members 3 little boys.
Well, I don't discount that entirely with everything goes on the Watchtower, Dick. I wouldn't discount that. Yeah, I'm not. The other thing I wanted to bring up too, now let's just suppose that what we're saying here tonight comes to fruition. But like I say, don't take it to the bank and cash it because this is all my speculation. I don't know if this is what's happening, but certainly it seems that way, but I'm not sure. But then there's another thing that popped into my mind. Who are the Jehovah's Witness going to be loyal to once the faithful slave are no more? Now, this has been the conceptual value of the witness world. The nucleus of the whole organization always centered around what? The faithful slave. Well, what happens when they're raptured and all taken up to heaven? Now what's going to happen? I mean, they have stated in articles in the Watchtower many times that eventually the governing body will disappear from death in rapture, and that the governing body helpers would be the ones that keep the things running. So now let's just think about this. And it reminds me when I went down and visited Loach in 2020 and 2001, like I say, and how he said the biggest problem was that all of these helpers are not anointed, and the witnesses were all upset about it. So let's just say now, just this, look at an example here. We have all of the so-called governing body. They're the real anointed ones that have been raptured to heaven. Now, this would be an alarming thing. How is it now that we have an organization that doesn't have a faithful and discreet slave? Isn't that the nucleus of the whole organization? The Jehovah's Witness.
That's when they have the casting call and they find the tallest, best, most photogenic, most appealing to the global group.
Well, that's
They're not photogenic though. Sorry, they're not photogenic, are they?
Yeah.
No,
They're
when
really
they get
bad and strange.
pick one, it'll be the Jim Jones type, sister. Lovely to hear from you from Britain.
Oh, but there's so much emphasis on faithful and loyal slaves. But what about a loving slave?
That's what our Christ
They're
was.
not
We
showing
know the
themselves to
true
be.
mediator, don't we? Who do you think is at the top of this? You and I are on the same page that there's somebody behind them.
Oh, there's a lot of manipulation. It's actually a science how to manipulate people. And I am seeing, this is only my own opinion, I am seeing how people are being manipulated now is very much in the same way that people in cults are manipulated. If you don't do what we say, you will die. People around the world now are very, very fearful. If we don't do what we're told to do, we will die. Information is being withheld. There's no open debate. I want to see scientists right now talking with each other, saying what is, what isn't. Dissenting voices aren't allowed. And it's so familiar, this scenario. And perhaps JWs and other cult members have been guinea pigs. There's something bigger is happening.
I agree with you, sister. And I'm a fourth generation. I have C.T. Russell's autograph. I agree with you.
Oh my goodness. But C.T. Russell, just going back to shunning, he was actually into shunning. I mean, he ordered his father and his stepmother, who was, he was, it's very incestuous, isn't it? Because Russell's wife was his father's wife. And when Russell fell out with his wife, he told his dad and her sister not to speak to the wife anymore. So I can't.
Oh my! I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up
for you.
Sorry.
I have a question for you. Have you found any link between the Golden Dawn and the Millennial Dawn?
I don't know. I've heard about Golden Dawn and people that are into alternative, to me, into alternative spirituality, have been a bit cautious about Golden Dawn. I've not looked it all up together, but I have seen it.
Well, there's a wonderful book about them in the 19th century, and William Butler Yeats was in it and so forth, and Crowley tried to and so forth. But I think there must be a connection between the Russell and Millennial Dawn and Golden Dawn, and I haven't been able to find it, but Reese said that he found a connection. So,
I'd love to hear that, because WB Yeats, his family were all Anglican ministers. I've been to his grave in Ireland, and you can go to his family church. I mean, they were there for generations preaching there, which is separate probably to Golden Dawn. So
I'm a great fan of Yeats. I'm related anciently to Swift, Jonathan Swift.
Oh, right. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in and say hello to the sister from the UK.
It's wonderful. Come back and visit again, please.
Yeah, in fact, I just wanted to ask her, are you coming in, sister from the UK, on the app? Because I don't want you to have to pay for coming in. If you write me...
When I spoke to her, I found an app that was free, and I can call you and not get charged.
Okay, you got the app. Okay, if anyone out there is listening in from around the world on the internet, I do have an app here. that you can call in free from pretty much all over the world. So if you'd like to get that app, and it's so nice and clear, if you'd like to get the app, it's free calling in. Write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and I'll send you the link and get your app, and you can call in and be free and be great. Thank you, sister, for calling in. It's wonderful.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So, I got thinking about this idea that, if all of the governing body members are raptured, then who's going to be the faithful and discreet slave? And I got just, I'm hitting my head against the wall here trying to figure this out, because I know one thing. A master can appoint a slave, but a slave can't appoint anyone under them. So I'm wondering who's going to be dispensing meat. So this is it's nonsense. And how do you make sense out of nonsense? So we are really seeing that the Watchtower is changing their modus operandi. There's going to be a lot of people questioning this, and I really do believe that they are getting ready to leave Dodge. All right, if you'd like to speak up before we move to the next subject, go ahead. You're on with us. You're on JW World News. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
This is Elder Michael. I was on an interview not too long ago with Dan and Angel.
Oh, yes, Elder. Yes, sir, Michael. I do remember. Yes, thank you.
I really believe they're collecting money. And like you said, they're ready to hit Dodge and get out of town and leave everybody holding the bag. And I just want to say that there's more PMOs out there than people really realize, PMO elders. There are more of those out there. I have them contact me all the time. I've had 8 in the last 3 weeks contact me disgusted with what they're seeing. And we just got to keep holding on. That's all we can do.
Well, Michael, I have to tell you, I was very, very impressed on the program you were on with Angela and Dan. And I really do, you can make a big difference. And I want to thank you for coming in here tonight and speaking up. Now, don't you be a stranger, because I know you can help so many people, Michael. Really, I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right.
My wife is fully indoctrinated, and I have to be very careful because I don't lose my family. But there's just so much. When I listened into the Zoom meeting the other night, and it's just a bunch of bull. I mean, I've got a son that's 17, and he got his driver's license. And one of the elders called my wife and said, "Why has he got his driver's license when he's not been baptized?" I mean, that's the kind of mentality that we're dealing with. And it's so sad. It's very sad that it's a cult. It's a cult. But that's all I wanted to say. And I enjoy listening in to everyone, and I enjoy the encouragement that I get from it. Because when you're shunned and pushed out, you're all alone. And for those folks out there right now that are alone, hey, I got your back. Because I know how it is.
Well, good for you, brother. My goodness gracious. You really touch my heart when you say these things. And you're very credible sounding. You speak with conviction. And thank you. People will appreciate that. Thank you for calling in tonight. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, things are happening. Okay, you're on with us. We get more people want to speak. Go ahead. Yep.
I have one other thought, Rick. I was just talking to another ex-JW listening to you. So, Rick, I've always wondered, what is it about Watchtowers? Why they have pushed the jab? I don't call it a vaccination. It's a jab or a shot. It's an experiment. So what is in Watchtower's best interest to be pushing the jab for every single member that's in the congregations worldwide? Well, it has to be money. I mean, you've always said that, and I think those are very wise words. Well, it was just brought to my attention that Watchtower has stocks in the different ones: Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca. Yeah, of course it has to benefit Watchtower. It comes down to lining their pockets with money. So the point I'd like to make is,
it's very controversial. Some people have gone ahead and had the jab. Other people have not. Some people have been very, very sick. Some people have even died from it. And you know what? Maybe this is just a thought. It's just another thought, Rick. Maybe Watchtower started to think, holy crap, we were pushing this jab on everyone to have the jab, and now people are dying. And now maybe there's going to be a class action lawsuit among a lot of active JWs against us. So not just the issue with the pedophiles, but the issue with Watchtower pushing the jab on everybody. Just a thought, Rick.
Well, that's a doggone good thought.
Thank you.
I wouldn't discount that at all. They I don't know why they're so outspoken. No other churches are. The Southern Baptists, the Methodists, the Lutherans, all of the different Presbyterians, they're not coming out and pushing the jab. So, the Watchtower, it's either money, and you're right, it could be follow the money trail, or another thing, where they have such a poor, tarnished image in the face of the governments around the world. All of a sudden, because we had Mayor de Blasio a few weeks back praising the witnesses because they're encouraging the jab. So maybe they're trying to cozy up to the governments, and hopefully they can say, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses aren't bad. At least they're helping us to get people to get the jab. I'm not sure what it's all about, Constance. I don't. Yeah.
Well, and you know what, honey? That's what Jim Jones did. He cuddled up to the politicians in San Francisco, the board of supervisors, the mayor, and everybody else, because he wanted to be sure he was in good standing with the political powers of San Francisco. Okay. And then, he had his own agenda. He was, Mr. Happy-go-lucky, Mr. Wonderful, with all the big smiles, and behind all that was a lot of evil. So very interesting, Rick.
Well, thank you for your insight. That adds a lot of credibility to our discussion tonight. Thank you, Constance. All right. So, yes.
Rick, I think you're right. I think they're either trying to curry favor with the politicians, or they've got investments in Moderna and all those other companies.
Well, I do know they have investments in Pfizer. I do know that as a fact. That I did check that out. That Watchtower does have holdings in Pfizer, and then also I realized that according to the Health Commission, United States Health and Services program, they are paying out money to religions for them encouraging people to take the jab. Now, I do know some churches are being paid upwards of $100 per shot. So, we've got 8 million witnesses around the world, according to their standards, or their figures. So, $100 a piece, 100 times, just say 100 times 5 million. You're talking 100 times 5 million. You're talking, what is it, $2 billion? I mean, you're talking a lot of money. So we'll see what happens. Don't hold me to my math. I'm just figuring out loud here, but we'll see what happens. Well, my goodness gracious, what a program tonight. Lots of people listening in from all over the world. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I'm sorry, I'll be real brief. The sister on the other end, who's, she's a researcher like you can't believe. She said Watchtower has investments in all three: Moderna, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca.
Is that right? Yeah, okay. All right.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Hey, listen, we've got Reese coming up next from the belly of the beast. My goodness, and he'll be coming up next and talking about all the things that are going on in the world. Sometimes he doesn't really hit the Watchtower on the head, but he talks about things that are very interesting. So we bring Reese on. He's a real researcher, and he'll be coming on in just about 10, 15 minutes. So that's the Watchtower and the Occult Connections coming up. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I've got some more stories here, but I don't think we got time to bring them all up. I did have a great YouTube. In fact, I'm gonna bring this up. We'll spend a few minutes on it. I wanted to bring this up because it was a great YouTube video that just came out in the last couple of days, 1975, and what the Watchtower doesn't want you to know. a girl, I guess a former witness. Her name is Christy Ann, and she has a great video right there on YouTube, and I really loved it. I'm going to play a little bit of it. I want you to hear some of this.
This year,
Hold on.
1900.
I want you now, we all said that, the Watchtower said that we were all running ahead in 1975. It really wasn't something that we should rest our hat on because we were all running ahead and the Watchtower never said it. Well, let's listen to Noor. Let's listen to what he has to say. We'll play that. I just want you to hear this. I found this very fascinating. Listen in.
But the big question is this. Is this year 1975 the final year, the last year before the great tribulation breaks and reaches its climax in the battle of the great day of God the Almighty at Armageddon?
Well, we don't have to guess what the year 1975 means. If we read the Watchtower, because the Watchtower has been very explicit as to what the year 1975 means for us. When God will bring the battle of Armageddon and clean this whole earth off, and you'll be ushered right into a paradise earth forevermore, never again to be afflicted with this satanic old system of things. It will be gone down.
And at sundown on September the 5th, the lunar year 1975 ends. So you see, we haven't got much left to this year 1975. It's going to end at sundown of September the 5th. And that immediately after September the 5th, why the millennial kingdom of the Lord Jesus Christ must begin in order to fulfill the final 1,000 years of God's great seventh creative day. And they're expecting the great tribulation to occur and the destruction of Babylon the Great and the annihilation of all the political systems of this world, and then the binding of Satan and his demons and their abyssing to occur before this year is ended, this year 1975. And immediately thereafter, the 1,000-year reign of the Lord Jesus Christ to begin. If we'll go to this red book here, Everlasting Life in Freedom of the Sons of God, and we turn to page 31 through 35, we find there a chart, which is headed Chart of Significant Events in from the creation of man to the year 7,000 Anno Mundi, 7,000 from the creation of man, 1,000 years from now. And what does it say regarding that? The end of the 7,000-year day of human existence.
All right, there you go. I mean, there you go. All of this was being said, but we were all running ahead. Well, who was saying it? Officials from the Watchtower. That is absolutely disgusting when you stop and think about it. And so many people, the Watchtower planted the assumption, didn't they? They had these speakers come on and they planted the idea that 1975 was going to be the year. So they planted the assumption and then they watered it with many supporting articles and sat back and did little to suppress the growth of that assumption. So that assumption grew. And so many witnesses, most witnesses believed that 1975 was going to be the end of the system. That's when Armageddon's coming. And then when it didn't come in 1975, you guessed it, they blamed it on the people who assumed it was coming. Well, who planted the assumption in the first place? So, I wanted to bring that up tonight. And I wanted to kind of end things on that. But we get to, who would like to speak up? Go ahead. Yes.
I have to say something, please. please. Thank you so much. I think it's very, very important. My husband was just asking the question. He said there has to be at least a few hundred people still in the organization who were there in the organization during the time of the 1975 Armageddon prophecy. Why don't they remember? And the thing is, a lot of them have been programmed not to remember or to think that they remember incorrectly. I think it's important for anybody who has an actual memory, their own memory, not somebody else's, to be able to say, Rick, I recognize Brother Sanuko in 1967. He's the one that said, if anybody asks, what does 1975 mean? Well, we don't have to ask what it means if we read the Watchtower, if we go to meetings and so on. And then Crazy Freddy, Fred Franz, the author of the Armageddon 75 Armageddon prophecy, he's the one talking about it's going to end September 5th. It's after sundown. That was Brother Fred Franz. Then there was Brother Noor, also hammering it home. These were all high-standing officials in Watchtower, and I personally recognize those voices, and I personally was there at those talks. And I just want to say, I'm adding credence to what you presented. You're not just saying officials. They didn't just implant it. They fed it to us on a regular basis. There was an awake, why are you looking forward to 1975? Another article was, what will 1970s bring? Then they had the doomsday clock, 2 or 3 minutes to 12. When, remember, midnight always represented destruction. There were constant magazines. Why God permits wickedness? Why has God permitted wickedness? It was constant in the magazines, constant at every single talk, everything. In fact, it became a thing. What do you wait for? Armageddon? I mean, Armageddon was a constant topic of everyday conversation. Thank you, Rick.
Well, there you go.
Hey, Rick,
yes, go ahead.
Just to kind of support what Anne Marie was just saying, I was there. I was in the military in 1970. Was going to make a career out of it. Had a girlfriend that you all know about, and got out of the Marines. Let the girlfriend go because she wouldn't study the Bible with the witnesses. I said, you're going to die in just a couple of years. Armageddon is coming. Every single talk that I ever heard from 1970 to 1975 was Armageddon is absolutely, definitely going to come. And if you read the Truth Book, the word they use quite often in that paragraph, that chapter that talks about Armageddon coming, is the word definite. It says in a definite time period for it to start, in a definite time period for it to end, and it brings the reader to that thought, that strong thought that Armageddon starts in 1975. Thanks, Rick.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Dick. That's great. I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Christy Ann. She produced that video. And Christy, I want you to know that was a great, great video. And we're proud of you. Now check her out, Christy Ann. Go to YouTube, put in there 1975, what the Watchtower doesn't want you to know, and it will come up on YouTube. Thank you, Christy. I believe she's listening in here tonight too, which is kind of great. So thank you, Christy. You did a really good job on that video. I encourage anybody to see it. She has great sound bites and what have you. So that's wonderful. Well, folks, we're going to be going to Watchtower and the Occult Connection. But I just want to say a few things. Now, next week, we're going to have a Halloween special. Our JW World News will be cut down to a half hour. And then Reese is going to come on. And we're going to be talking all about the occultism, all of the spooky, crazy stuff that goes on in the Watchtower. That'll be our Halloween. That'll be our Halloween. That'll be our Halloween special coming up next Saturday night here on the 6 screens at 7 o'clock. So listen in. We'll do the news for a half hour, and then our Halloween special will begin. I also wanted to say that, friends, I know a lot of people want to say, well, how can we help the 6 screens? Well, I'm going to tell you how you can help us. I don't want you to send any money here. I don't want you to send any money. We're fine. We're doing okay. What I'd love to have you do is share your thoughts on Facebook, share it on Reddit, on JWN. Let people, you listen in to the Six Screens and you're really fascinated with what goes on, and subscribe to our channel and tell other people to listen in. It's a live program, friends. It's one of a kind. So if you could do that for me, that would be more important to me than you sending me $100 a piece. I'm serious. So do that. That would make me one happy man. And also, I want to say that we do have a Sunday program. We have Sunday Jehovah's Witness Spiritual Day. Now, this is for former witnesses. We don't talk about theological witnessing or theological teachings here on Saturday night. It gets in people's faces. They've been so traumatized. They've been so spiritually abused in the Watchtower, they don't know how to handle spirituality. But if you can handle it, and you like the idea of not leaving God behind when you leave the Watchtower, why don't you listen in tomorrow, beginning at 1 o'clock? And you're going to hear some Christian apologists and people come on explaining the theological teachings in the Watchtower, including our good friend Anne Marie. And she has a great program too. She'll be on at 2:30. So by all means, come in tomorrow and listen to it. And, it's not totally in-your-face preaching. But if you have an inclination to want to learn, the real theological problems the Watchtower kind of led us down a dead-end road, come in tomorrow. Come in tomorrow, and we can probably help you sort through some of that. So anyways, we're going to be going to Reese. And I want all of you guys to, and another thing too, why don't you join our Six Screens Facebook group? Join that, and you can be right up to date on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, we're going to Reese, Watchtower and the Occult Connection. We want to thank you for coming in. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We're now going to Reese. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
The following program is controversial in nature. Conspiracy theories once limited to fringe audiences have become commonplace in mass media. Conspiracy theories have a negative connotation, implying that the appeal to a conspiracy is founded on prejudice or insufficient evidence. However, many are often commonly believed, some even being held by the majority of the population. Topics discussed in this program are likely to create disagreement and dispute. A conspiracy theory may take any matter as its subject, but certain subjects attract greater interest than others. Acclaimed researcher and